So there was not a call that you just missed. We've got Amene in Texas wants to tell us why he believes in God. How are you, Amene? Am I pronouncing that correctly, Amene?
Hello?
Yes, you have. You have pronounced it right. Yes, sir.
Okay, you're on the air with Jenna and Matt. You're please tell us why you believe in a God and which God. It would help.
Okay, thank you for having me, Mr. Matt and Jenna.
Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Well, I'll try to make it easy for you. I'm talking about the God of the Old Testament.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason I believe is actually it took me a while to believe, to make sure to believe. And it involves a great deal of research.
Can I ask you, hold on, why did it take a while for you to believe? What does that mean? It took a while. Why would it take you a while to believe in a God? Is that something you're trying to do? Are you trying to believe in a God initially? Is that why?
No, I was born in a Christian family.
You were born Christian. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm sorry. So you pretty much believed in a God from the get-go?
Yeah, I've been believing for a long time. And then when I get older, I would like to know exactly what I'm believing on. So I start doing my research.
What'd you find?
One of the research is there are more than 5 billion people believe in his existence. And then this includes highly respected scientists, philosophers, rich and poor, black, yellow, white, whatever color it is, men and women.
So you believe it because they believe it?
Let me finish up, okay. Not only that.
Well, hang on.
No one.
Hang on,
Amene.
Yes, Amene?
Yes, sir.
We're trying to understand. And so the easiest way for us to do this is to ask clarifying questions. It's not really conductive, or it's not really a good idea for us to just let you just keep talking if we're not convinced that we're getting anywhere. So you're advocating for the God of the Old Testament. And so far, your claim is that it took you a long time and a lot of research. And what you found is that there are a bunch of smart people who believe in God.
That's one of them.
Okay, that's one of them. Is that the reason? Is it the strongest reason? Is it even a good reason? For example, is it possible that a bunch of smart people believe something that isn't true?
That's the amazing thing which makes me keep researching. And then when I do my research...
Hang on. I asked a question, and your answer to it was, that's the amazing thing. I'm looking for an answer. This is a yes or no question.
Yes, of course. Both sides, there are believers, there are non-believers, highly educated, scientists, like I said, philosophers, all kinds of...
But no. It doesn't... So... because there are a bunch of smart people who believe something and a bunch of smart people who don't believe that, what does that tell us?
That tells us at least something must be right, something must be wrong. So I have to do my further research to reach in one point.
Well, so no, it doesn't tell us that something must be right. That's the whole question is this right? So you don't get to just say, oh, I'm researching God to find out whether or not God's real, and then say there's all these smart people who believe it. But that doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you how likely it is that they're correct.
Right. Like when you're building your pile of evidence for God, there's these different pieces. And what we're trying to do is break it down and say, okay, what's this piece? What's this piece? What's this piece? And how did we get there? Right. Yeah. So we're looking at this one piece and saying, that's not a very good piece.
It's not even relevant.
We can't be in the basket, right? So we're kicking it out and saying, okay, now what do we have left? What are your pieces?
What's the evidence for God?
Okay, now, and then, now, can you hear me?
Do you agree that that was a bad piece and we're throwing that out and saying that's not a good reason to believe in a God? Do you agree with that?
No, okay, not only that, no one, even the people who wrote,
hang on.
No one, okay.
I've muted you because you are not listening to us. We are asking questions to try to get to the truth. And every time one of us asks a question, it's like you've got a script in front of you, or you've taken an improv course that taught you that you should just say yes and. When you need to actually take a moment and think about the question that's being asked and try to answer it, because this is not a forum for you just to call in and preach. We're looking for you to explain why you are convinced the Old Testament God is real, and you've started with because a bunch of people believe it. And we're pointing out that that's not a good reason and asking if you agree. Are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? Do I have a very, very bad connection, I believe?
Yeah, it's a very bad connection. I'm having difficulty understanding you. So do you agree that whether or not there's a God, the number of people or how smart some people are who believe it has no bearing on whether or not there's a God?
Yeah, if we take like Professor Richard Dawkins, who wrote a book called The God Delusion.
Richard Dawkins?
Sam Harris.
Yes.
Professor Sam Harris wrote the book called The End of Faith.
Okay.
And then the Professor Lawrence wrote a book, The Universe from Nothing.
Okay.
None of them said and claim there is no God.
Hang on. What was that one more time at the end?
Okay. These philosophers.
You said none of them said what?
Okay, so first of all, stop. Let's just stop, because as the only person in this discussion who's been on stage with all three people that you mentioned multiple times, A, none of them are philosophers.
Yeah.
B,
no, I'm saying professors.
Okay. B, you seem to suggest that all of them have reached a faith-based conclusion that there is no God, and I don't think that's fair. And C, none of them are here to defend themselves, and what they say isn't relevant to this discussion about why you believe there's a God. So maybe throw Dawkins out, throw Harris out, throw Krauss out, talk to the two people who you're actually on the phone with, and explain why you believe there's a God.
Okay, I know they are not here, but you can research on that, and I think you know that none of them said and claim there is no God. Even yourself,
I know that
claim there is no God.
I know that. I'm friends with them. I've been on stage with them. None of that is relevant to this discussion. What difference does it?
Okay.
What difference does it make whether or not Sam Harris asserts there isn't a God? How does that impact your belief that there is?
Even yourself, Mr. Matt Dillahunty, you never claim that there is no God. You never claim that.
Right.
But you see, the saddest thing is, are you with me? The saddest thing is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Okay, the saddest thing is, only the deceived followers are the ones who claim that they are atheists. If you ask them outside, are you atheists? They say yes. And then I try to tell them, even Mr. Dillahunty never claimed that there is no God.
Do you think that atheists are all saying we have proof that there is no God? Do you believe that that's what we're saying?
I didn't believe that, but the rest of the people who are following you guys,
stop.
You say there is no God.
Stop. I'm gonna give you one last chance, Amene, and then I'm going on to somebody else, because I genuinely don't give a fuck what Sam Harris said. I don't give a fuck what some fan of the show told you. I'm sitting here telling you I'm an atheist. I am not convinced there is a God. You are convinced there is a God of the Old Testament. Are you going to defend that, or are you going to keep talking about what some atheist said somewhere? Because none of that is evidence for God. One last chance before I move on. Evidence for a God. Go.
Evidence for God.
Well, actually, we already have
In
a piece of
order to-
evidence for a God. We haven't finished that yet. We haven't figured out if he agrees.
I don't think you're going to.
Which one?
Okay.
You said
I think, Mr. Matt, I have to have a YouTube program just to explain this. This is a big subject, you know.
Okay.
And I listen to you guys.
Program and find a way to explain it. I've dropped the call. We're moving on to something else. Because if you're going to call into a call-in show and say that you believe the Old Testament God is real, and when you're asked to demonstrate it, your answer is, hey, atheists tell me this, or atheists tell me that, or a bunch of smart people believe this, or a bunch of smart people believe that. And when we put your feet to the fire, your response is, well, I would need to make my own YouTube channel because there's just too much to go into. Then go fucking do it and stop wasting time on ours. I don't understand someone who would call in to say, hey, I'd like to demonstrate why I believe in God, but it would take me too long. So I would need to go make a YouTube channel to do that.
Maybe he just realized that he doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, you think?